know you had to have a hard conversation? Have you ever been in a situation like that before as a leader? It can be pretty stressful. And in this video, I want to give you the opportunity to ask me anything as it relates to having those very difficult conversations, perhaps with your team, perhaps with your colleagues, perhaps with your peers, perhaps with your business partner. Let's talk about it today. And I'm here to support you any way that I can. Learn from my over 20 years of experience as a C-suite executive, a director, an executive coach, and a public speaker to help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. My expertise is in very high stakes, high pressure situations, and having a difficult conversation with a coworker, a peer, or someone else is considered high stakes. So let's talk about it today. If you are watching this portion of the video, you are more than likely watching the replay, and I'm glad you're here. If you are a subscriber, I'm so glad you're here as well. Let me know what questions you specifically have as it relates to this topic, and let's go through some strategies today. I want you to leave this video with a way to handle your complex situation or the difficult conversation you're going to have. So I'm here to support you any way that I can. So I want to say hello to DJ. Hello, DJ. How are you doing today? Welcome, welcome. DJ, DJ said, what's up? What are we talking about? So DJ, we are going to be talking about having difficult conversations, and specifically any questions you have about having difficult conversations. This is something that many people in the wonderful world of leadership tend to struggle with because they are not sure how they should have a conversation. They're just not sure of what to say, when to say it, how to say it. So we're going to dive into that specifically in the video today. As I mentioned, this is a topic that many people struggle with. And if you've ever struggled with having a difficult conversation before, then let me know in the comments below. I've had problems with difficult conversations many years ago. I've made some very good calls in terms of difficult conversations, and I've made some maybe not too good of a call either. So learn from my over 20 years of experience to help you be able to navigate these situations specifically. So one of the reasons why people struggle with difficult conversations is because they feel intimidated. Most people, excuse me, do not want to be in a state where they are having to have some type of a conflict that they're dealing with. They don't want to be in a situation where they're having to potentially debate with someone, argue with someone. Most of us as leaders are pretty just, relaxed. We don't want to have any issues or problems. If you've been in that situation, let me know. Let me know what problems you've had. What difficult conversations are you preparing to have here very soon? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. If you've ever had a hard conversation, difficult conversation, you did not know what to do or what to say or how to say it, this is the best place for you to be today. I want to say hello to those of you who have joined, and let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are watching this video here. And have you ever struggled with having a difficult conversation? Let's talk about it in the comments below. I will say this live channel, I actually will say hello to you. So if you are looking for a live to watch today where you can get some actual engagement with the actual person that is communicating with you, this is the best place for you to be at, because many lives on different platforms, they don't necessarily say hello to you. It's just more of them talking. I'm here to have a conversation with you and help you be able to master this skill. I want to say hello to M. Grace in your face, NY3PS. Hello, M. Grace. How you doing today? Welcome, welcome, and thank you for the heart emojis, friends. So what conversations do you have coming up very soon that you think are going to be difficult? Let's talk about it. Let me know in the comments below. I'll give you a couple of strategies to help you be able to navigate difficult conversations. Roxy B6P, hello, welcome, welcome. If you're new to me, welcome to the channel. This channel focuses heavily on advanced communication strategies to help you be able to communicate more confidently and concisely when you are under pressure. If you want to be that person who can think on your feet, respond very quickly, and always appear very cool and very calm when you're in very high pressure situations as a leader, this is the best channel for you on YouTube. I'm sharing with you over 20 years worth of experience in very friendly and contentious situations to help you with that. If you happen to be a woman in leadership, my coaching, executive coaching and consultation practice focuses on helping women in leadership be able to communicate at that higher level. If you want some support, reach out to me in the description below for a strategy session. If you are outside of my target audience and you are a man in leadership or someone that is thinking about leadership and you're just not sure if you want to do it or not, then this is the best place for you to be. Also, because you're going to learn a tremendous amount of value here on your journey. Thank you for the heart emojis, and let me know what questions you all have as it relates to having these difficult conversations. I'll share with you a couple of strategies that have actually helped me have difficult conversations with other individuals. One of the strategies that I work with my clients on individually when they are in these senior level leadership roles, executive roles, manager roles, and etc., this is something that they struggle with quite a bit because they don't know what to say. So my very first strategy I want to share with you in terms of being able to communicate when those situations come up, when it's a difficult conversation. And I want to say hello to Jeremy Bullwinkle 3972. Hello, Jeremy Bullwinkle. Good to see you again, friend. Jeremy Bullwinkle 3972 says, hello, Dr. Jacinta. Hello, hello. Welcome back, Jeremy. Good to see you again. The first thing I'm going to share with you in terms of your strategy to have this difficult conversation is to plan ahead. Not just plan ahead in terms of what you want to say. That's for your average leaders. You are an above average leader, the fact that you clicked on this video. What above average leaders do, and this is something you want to write down, when we are preparing for difficult conversations, we prepare for the best case scenario and we're going to prepare for the worst case scenario. Many people struggle with this. They do not prepare for both. They go into difficult conversations and they think to themselves, oh, okay, I'm having a hard conversation, difficult conversation with a coworker or a peer. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever had that happen to you. You're preparing for a difficult conversation and you're so focused on what they did wrong that that's the only thing that's in your mind. Sometimes we just don't prepare for what could really be a wonderful outcome and what could be a maybe not as wonderful outcome. Perhaps the person responds in a great way. Maybe they responded in a very argumentative, contentious type of way. As leaders, as exceptional leaders, and if you're watching this video or subscribe to my channel or you've worked with me as one of my clients, my goal here is to help you be exceptional. And exceptional leaders plan for the intended and unintended consequences. This is something that I learned many years ago when I spent a bit of time during an externship on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. with different congressional leaders, when I learned about when you're developing policies for different types of things, bills, legislations, whatever the case may be, you have to think of what are the intended and what are the unintended consequences. And so I take that, even though it's in a different type of setting, I bring that same knowledge to you all because this is something that people don't talk about when they are having hard conversations. You have to plan for both. Sometimes we are so busy, we just are so heavily focused on what this person, this situation, this individual is doing wrong that we don't take the time to think of, well, how can this conversation go? And this is a skill that will help you stand apart from everybody else as a leader. Now, let me know in the comments below if you have ever been in a very difficult conversation as a leader. How did it go? Did things work out well for you? Was it a challenge? Let's talk about it. Let's learn from each other here. Excuse me. Sorry, I've been a little under the weather, everybody. But let's learn from each other because there's a lot of individuals that watch the videos outside of the lives. They watch the replays, and I do want to make sure that we are growing as a community. I have insights to share, and so do you all too. And so I want to make sure that we are being enlightened as much as we can, especially as it relates to communicating at a very high level compared to your peers. So as I mentioned, plan ahead for what can go really well and what can go really bad in your difficult conversation that you have. Now, the second strategy I want to share with you that will help you to do this is to have a conversation. Now, I've talked about this many times. And how many of you, by indication in the chat, or if you're watching the replay in the comments, thank you for the heart emojis, friends. How many of you have ever been in a difficult conversation and someone's talking to you and they are telling you something that may be related to your performance or something you did incorrectly, or etc.? Is this something that's ever happened to you all before? Now, I will say that most of the time when this situation happens, how do you feel? Do you feel positive? Do you feel not so positive? Let me know in the comments below. I personally have had that happen to me and I felt negative. And therefore, I take my experiences and bring them in a way to where I try to make any difficult conversations I have with people to be as positive as possible, because I know difficult conversations can put people on guard and make them be a bit more guarded than I want them to be. So I want to say hello to M. Grace in your face. Says hello again. Welcome, welcome. We have Ramesh Khanna. Robert, welcome back, Robert. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you, Robert. Welcome back, friend. And Jeremy Bullwinkle waves and says hello. Okay, we have Eric R6D9X and said, hello, I had a girlfriend, but she broke up. Well, Eric, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that can be very challenging, Eric, and I don't know where you are in your life, but the only thing I can say, Eric, and this is not necessarily related to leadership specifically, but this is something that is a difficult conversation. Sometimes, Eric, depending on the situation, what's going on, it may be the best thing. I have no idea. I'm sorry to hear that happened to you, but just from just years and decades of experience in my life, sometimes when things don't work out, they don't work out. And I'll tell you that from my very, very, very personal experience myself. So Eric, I'd say hang in there, friend, okay? We have King Amir 94. Welcome, welcome. How you doing today? King Amir says, I like your glasses, mama. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you stopping by today. Let me know if y'all have had to have difficult conversations before. Let's talk about them. Have you had someone have a difficult conversation with you? Let's talk about that. Or have you been the person giving or delivering a difficult conversation? Let's talk about that as well. Millie Ahrens, welcome back, Millie. Hope you're doing well today. And Millie says, hey. Hello, Millie. King Amir 94 says, I'm doing great, thanks. Well, awesome. We're glad that you're here. So for those of you who are joining, we have some of our regular people here. Millie Ahrens, we have Jeremy Bullwinkle, we have Robert. So I'm so glad to see you all, and DJ as well. So welcome back, everybody. And for those individuals specifically who are new to the channel, this channel focuses on how to help you communicate more confidently, more concisely when you are in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. If you've ever been in interviews, doing presentations, public speaking in front of a group, in a salary negotiation, having a difficult conversation as we're discussing now, those are under pressure situations. And oftentimes, for those of you who are new to me, I find that leaders tend to struggle with this topic because we are simply not taught how to communicate when we are under pressure. Whether you are my direct target audience as a woman in leadership, or you are not in my target audience and you may be a man in leadership, or you may be somebody that's not a leader just yet, but you're thinking about it. These skills I'm sharing with you are not taught in a book. And a lot of times it's not taught on YouTube unless the person has had some type of real world lived experience of being in those very under pressure situations, which is why I'm here to share the insights I've learned over the past 20 years with you in hopes that you will be able to do very well. Millie Ahrens says, I am Bill. Is that correct? Millie is okay. Let me know do you want me to address you Millie or Bill? Let me know. I'm here to support you any way that I can. So we talked a little bit about, for those of you just joined, the very first step, the very first strategy I would share with you if you are having a difficult conversation is to think of it in the form of how we develop policies, how we develop laws, how we develop all of those type of things. And that's how I personally do it. As I mentioned, for those of you who just joined, I look at it when I have those difficult conversations as being, what are the intended and unintended consequences that can come out of this conversation? This is something I learned when I spent some time on Capitol Hill during the externship in Washington, D.C. I take that same philosophy into difficult conversations. Number two is to make it like a conversation. For example, if you have done something incorrectly, would you want to be spoken to as if you're having a conversation, or would you want that person to be a bit more aggressive and not nice to you? Most people would say the former. They would say, no, we want someone just to have a conversation and just tell us we did something incorrectly, not to be really aggressive and rude about it. So what happens a lot of times is that when leaders are in situations where we have to give that bad information or deliver a difficult conversation or have it, we may be at a very heightened sense of stress within ourselves, and we may not be able to control our emotions in a way that allows us to still have a conversation even though we're frustrated. And what I've seen happen with leaders is that they may be frustrated in their mind specifically, and then they take that frustration out on that person, and then that person internalizes it, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I did this. And then they go home and then they feel bad, and then they take it out on their family, their friends, their loved ones, and then their family, their friends, or their loved ones feel like, oh, she had a bad day. He had a bad day. And they all internalize it. So as leaders, we have an opportunity to do things correctly and treat people the right way, because you never know what your actions can do that will have a domino effect on someone's life. You have to have difficult conversations, yes, and sometimes they do have to be difficult. However, we still want to make sure we're having it in a very positive way. So have a conversation first. All right, Robert says, difficult conversations. Yes, I have a question. Absolutely, Robert. You know I'm here for you, Robert. In having a hard time understanding British English, their accent is difficult to get during meetings. We have one client from the UK. Okay, hold on, sorry, the message, okay, there's one that was changed. Okay, how we can find a solution from different languages or accent challenges. Robert, that's a really great question. And I would say there's a couple ways to do that specifically. One of the ways that if you're in those situations, is there someone that you work with that is your main contact with the department? And I say that because typically what I've found sometimes when those situations happen, there may be someone that I have a bit more access to that may be managing the project from another country, where I can have that conversation with them to discuss whatever the case may be. Sometimes, Robert, what you may have to do is to ask them or open up the conversation and say, really excited to be here and have a conversation about this specific situation. I do want to make sure I hear everything clearly. And if everybody can speak maybe a bit slower, just so I can understand. That may be one way you want to handle that situation. But the key, Robert, is you probably need them to slow down a little bit, because I know with different accents in different cultures, they speak fast. They speak just faster. For instance, I know some Spanish, conversational Spanish. Spanish is a very fast-speaking type of language. In the UK, the language can be a little bit different. Everybody says things differently. And what I've found that can be helpful too is to do some watching of videos in YouTube. I know this is going to sound maybe a bit different than what you're expecting me to say, but one, have a conversation with the person that's in charge of that department, or if your client, if it's your direct client, do they have someone that is your liaison to speak with you, so you can have a conversation and say, whenever we have meetings, if it's possible, if you can have your team just to slow down speaking a little bit, just so I can make sure I understand what they're saying exactly, so we can make sure we have everything together for the client. But then two, you may want to just spend some time looking at videos from people from whatever country you're working with. Why do I say that? Because if you're interacting with clients from the UK, they speak differently. They have different words they say for friends. They say mate. Mate is a big thing there. Or if you're going on vacation in the UK, it's not a vacation, it's a holiday. Versus here in the States, we say friend or we say vacation. Every country has their own different way of communicating. But that doesn't mean you have to learn every country's language. It's still some form of English, if that makes sense. But I would try to educate. If I was in that situation, Robert, I would educate myself, and I would try to watch, not a lot, but I would watch a few videos from people speaking from the UK to start getting a sense of what it is that they're saying. So there's two ways to address it. One, communicate with the main person that's over this project or the client's liaison to your organization. If you have it, if you're not, that's okay. Just make a statement that I really want to hear everybody. I know we're in different areas and we're communicating electronically, so if everyone can speak a bit slower so we can capture what's being said and we can make sure we're supporting the client, something on those lines. And then I would take it a step further, personally for me. I would take it a step further by listening to a couple of videos of individuals speaking in British English so you understand how they're communicating, what they're saying, and you get a gist of, oh, I know when they say this, now I'm starting specifically to talk about that, what they're talking about. So that might be a way, Robert, to do it. As I mentioned, the second strategy is something that you may be extra in other people's opinion, but Robert, I know you are exceptional, friend. And so I'm sharing with you things that will make you stand out as being very, very exceptional, because you're going to be able to have a very good understanding of what's being said just by educating yourself. We are in an amazing time in the world where we have access to each other from different parts of the world. Let's use that technology. Learn what you can, watch videos, get a sense of how people are communicating based on what you're seeing. I want to say hello to Tile by James. Hello, Tile by James. How are you doing today? And Tile by James says, is this a job interview? No, it is not a job interview, but job interviews can be situations where you may be in a difficult conversation. If you have questions about job interviews, let me know in the comments below. This is something that I will say I am an expert in, especially as it relates to job interviews. I've done hundreds of job interviews, hundreds of salary negotiations. If you have any questions about it, you let me know. I can help you do very well with a job. If you're a woman in leadership and you're struggling and maybe you're on that job roller coaster, or I'd say hamster wheel, so to speak, where you're interviewing and not getting opportunities, let's talk about it. I can actually help you do very well. I've helped some of my clients get multiple six figures in their job opportunities, even if they have not been working for a while. Robert says, thank you for the clear explanation. Absolutely, Robert, you're very welcome. I would do this exactly what I shared with you is what I would do specifically, so I understand. Because even with people in your own country, depending on where we all are from, there's different ways that we say things, and sometimes we don't understand what's being said. I'll give you an example. So many of you know I'm based out of the United States, but I was raised in North Carolina. North Carolina is a southern state. I have a southern accent, even though I have not lived in North Carolina for decades and decades and decades now. There are certain words that are said in North Carolina that are different. There are certain words that are said in New York. I lived in New York that are different, that people would not understand what's being said. There are words that are said in Texas, in California. They're just different ways of communicating. And if you are struggling with communication, of course, subscribe to the channel because I'll be able to help you with that. But if you really are trying to understand and be that person that stands out from everybody else, which is why I hope that you are subscribed, this is a way for you to do it. Take that time, take that extra few moments just to take a look and see how people communicate from other places. Because one of the most powerful things that we utilize in executive coaching when I'm working with clients is to be able to have a conversation with them and understand where they're coming from and mirror their language. And this is something that will suit you very well if you're trying to stand out from everybody else. Tarball James gives a raise for Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte is a great city. I have not been in Charlotte in a long time. Decades now, Tarball James. I haven't been in Charlotte, and I can't even remember the last time. I probably visited Charlotte, maybe 2003, maybe, probably. It's a long time ago, but I'm sure it's an amazing city now compared to what it is, what it was back then. MV3244, hello, welcome. Says, can you help me? What question do you have? As long as it's appropriate to our conversation about leadership and communication. Blue Crest 4570 says, hello, welcome. How are you doing today? We have Real Scale VR says, guess what? You can let me know what you're referring to. Blue Crest 4570 says, have you ever been to Utah? Blue Crest 4570, I have not been to Utah. I have lived in different parts of the U.S., Utah is one of those places I have not visited, but I'm hoping that I get to visit there at some point in time. I've lived in North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, Florida, New York, California. So I've lived in several places, and I have not had the chance to go into that area specifically of the U.S. I have been to Hawaii. I visited Hawaii, and I've spent some time in Alaska and Barrow, which is at the top of the world. Okay, so Real Scale VR says Jesus loves you. Absolutely. Well, we talked a little bit about strategies as it relates to having difficult conversations. And if you all have ever had any difficult conversations, or maybe have a difficult conversation coming up, just as Robert mentioned earlier, this is your time to ask me anything. Ask me. This is a safe space. I am not the type of live streamer that is not going to acknowledge you or not going to listen. As long as it's appropriate and it's not something that's completely offensive and silly, I will be absolutely happy to support you any way that I can. We have Com Creates. Hello, welcome, welcome. And I do also want to mention that difficult conversations, they don't have to be difficult. It's a lot of times depending on how you plan for it. As I mentioned, make sure you plan for your unintended, your intended and unintended issues or consequences. Take my policy language that I've learned to determine how you want this conversation to go. What could happen if this conversation does not go in the direction you want it to go into? And then make sure that you are having a conversation, meaning that you speak to someone in a very polite way, even if it's something hard you have to talk about. I've been in situations where I've had to do terminations, I've had to do layoffs, I've had to do reductions in force, I've had to do all those conversations that are very difficult to do as a leader. And you still have to have the best way to have it in terms of being able to make it like a conversation and still acknowledge people and be nice. Robert says, I'm 27 years old. I have been in a medical billing field for the past 5 years. Is it okay to start a new career field in a different country from the beginning, or I have to continue in the same field? Since I have 5 years of experience in the same industry, or can I begin a new career I'm assuming you're saying at 27 years, maybe in a different country? Robert, this is a great question. And one of the things that comes up a lot, and I do want to say, in your case specifically, Robert, it really just depends on what you want to do. If you are at a point in your career where you feel like you are perhaps tired of the medical billing aspect of things, and I know we've talked about that briefly some, Robert. If you're feeling a bit tired of it and it's something that you don't want to do anymore, then you may have to start thinking about a different career. It just depends on what your goals are and where you see yourself. If you're trying to move to another country and you're trying to learn a new skill, that's fine. It just depends on what type of role you're looking for specifically. So tell me, what are some potential roles that you're looking for in terms of your next steps, maybe in terms of your career, and let's talk about it. But it's okay to start a new career. So for many of you who do not know, I am actually a doctor, and I have been practicing as a dentist for going on 16 years now. And I am actually an executive coach and a public speaker as well. Therefore, there's a point in time where I shifted in terms of the careers that I have been doing in terms of what I do. And I actually have a profession. I don't have necessarily a field that I work in. This is actually a profession. And I've switched and transitioned into something different. So Robert, I want you to know that it's never too late to change if it's something that you're incredibly passionate about. Now, many of you who may be new to me, I focus heavily on advanced communication skills based off of my past 20 years of experience in those senior level executive roles as a C-suite executive, as a director, as a manager, and as someone that has interacted with different members of Congress many times. So I have a different skill set that I'm here to share with you. That's my passion. I love public speaking. I love helping everyone be able to communicate at a higher level than your peers. And this is the reason why you come to this channel, is to be that person that can communicate on their feet. Think on your feet, be able to communicate in those very high pressure, high stakes situations. That's why my audience is very, very specific to these type of characteristics because this is what I do. So you can change your career at any point in time, Robert. It just is a matter of what do you want to do? What is going to make you feel fulfilled? There's always this balance that we have, Robert. And I want to say that we have this balance of where we have to have income to pay for bills, but then you have something that you're really passionate about. So, Robert, what is it? What is it that you are maybe thinking about transitioning to as it relates to that next move? And then depending on your timeline, when you plan on moving to another country, and etc., that determines which direction you might go. Maybe you stay in medical billing to get you into another country if that's a relevant field for that country specifically. Or maybe you go into a different field and you say, this is something that may help me. I need to go into the tech industry or any other industry. It just depends on what is most important to you, Robert, and where you want to be at and how you want to move forward in your career. Robert, you know I'm here for you to help you any way that I can and support you on your journey. You let me know in the comments below whatever you feel like comfortable talking about, but just give me some insight in terms of where you're thinking about going and what your plan is, and then we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it briefly if you feel comfortable doing so publicly. We have Cynical Base 9531 says, where's the excellence? I've been watching for 5 minutes and I haven't seen any excellence. Well, excellence, if you've been watching for 5 minutes and you don't feel like you've seen excellence, then I can tell you there's other lives you can go to. But here on this channel, I'm here to actually support my audience that comes to visit the channels regularly, just like Millie A. Rands, Robert, DJ, Jeremy Bullwinkle. I'm actually one of those very few creators, Cynical Base, that actually has a conversation with the people that join my audience. And I'm here to provide them with any support that I can to help them be successful. Because Cynical Base, I don't know your field, I don't know your discipline, I have no idea about you specifically because you're new to the channel. But I will say that many people are struggling right now and they're trying to figure out, well, how do I navigate challenges in the career? Just as Robert mentioned, Robert knows I will take time out for him and help him any way that I can when I'm live. So if that doesn't equivocate to excellence to you, then your definition of excellence may be different than what the definition of excellence is as it relates to Oxford Languages Dictionary. Excellence is where we are elevating. You are presenting yourself. You are conducting yourself at the highest levels. And that's what I do every single day. When I go live with my audience here on this channel, I'm giving them excellence because that's what I want them to do. And the only way to do that is to show compassion, to listen to what people have going on, and to be able to provide them with support because I'm trying to change generations. I'm not having just a random silly conversation. Robert's going to have a family and have whatever else goes on in his life, and that's going to impact his generation from that time, and their generation is going to be impacted, all by what we're discussing right now. So if that's not excellence to you, then friend, this is not the right channel for you. There's other channels you can go watch. There's a lot of people on lives that watch, and people tell me this too. They have silly things where they're lifting weights, they're jumping up and down, doing silly stuff. There's plenty of lives out there. There's plenty of lives out there. But this live, my business is Excite Excellence Incorporated, and this is what I do to support my audience that comes to watch me. All right, we have Jamma150K3M says, hello, preciseness. Well, hello, Jamma. Welcome, welcome. Robert says, my ambition and dream are to work in the aviation field. Wow, that's fantastic, Robert. I'm glad you shared that with me. I study aeronautical engineering, but due to fate, I have been in the medical field, but I wish to start a career in aviation in a different country. Okay, and Robert also says, you know that I got recently promoted. Yes, I do. Promoted as a process coach, but still, and thank you for the heart emojis, but still I'm looking for my dream. Achieving my dream is bigger than process coach role. That is really great insight, Robert. And you know, I would talk to you for a long time about this. And maybe one of the lives, especially if it's on a Friday evening, I have a lot more time to talk more about it. But let's talk about a couple things as you relate it. And if you all have any questions specifically as it relates to career advancement or etc., then put it in the comments below. I'm here to support you any way that I can for the next few minutes. But let's focus on Robert. Robert, I will say that if your ambition and your dream is to be in the aviation field, then this is what I would tell you. And this is from my perspective as As a C-suite executive, I've been in those senior leadership roles and I've helped a lot of people transition into careers. If you already have studied aeronautical engineering, couple things. Did you obtain a degree in aeronautical engineering? How much experience do you have in aeronautical engineering? And what are some roles that you could look for right now that would use your experience in aeronautical engineering that you could transition to relatively quickly? Those are a couple things that I would recommend for you to start thinking about in terms of making this change. We all have something that we are called to do. I believe that we all have our own unique gifts and skills. And if aeronautical engineering is something that is passionate to you, which I can tell that it is, then let's really start thinking about it. Let's start thinking about it, Robert, because I want you to live your purpose and what makes you happy. And if that's where you want to go, then let's try to get you there. Let's try to figure out some type of strategy to get you there. So make sure, let's talk about your experiences in aeronautical engineering. As I mentioned, how long have you had experience? Did you get a degree in it or a certification? What could you transition into now based off of you going from one country to another that would equivocate to aeronautical engineering in that area? And thank you for the heart emojis. I appreciate those and the smiley faces. So let's talk about that. Now, one thing that we've talked about this too, Robert, that you want to do, there's like this time, and I want to say hello to Nahal67. There's this time when you are building something meaningful and you are still in one career, such as medical billing, as you mentioned, but you're trying to transition into your big vision. There's a point, Robert, and I'm being honest with you as I can be, where you have to juggle both worlds a little bit. And this is what people struggle with. When you're trying to do something really big, a big vision, you sometimes have to be willing to do what other people will not do. People used to tell me I was crazy all the time when I was working as a senior executive, accomplishing my distinguished Toastmaster, taking care of my kids, starting to become a certified executive coach because I had to go back to school to do that. I was doing a lot of things and people would tell me I was crazy. They would tell me I was crazy all the time. But I had something bigger that I was working on. So if you're at that point specifically, then this is what you may want to consider doing. If there's some things that you can do now, and I think we've talked about this, any additional certifications, any additional, I would say, aspects of aeronautical engineering that you could start just building into your environment now, to where if you apply for another job and you've been in medical billing for extended amount of time, but you still have been doing aeronautical engineering or some aspect of it or some learning about it, then it still shows that you've been able to balance both, because ultimately we know what you want to do is aeronautical engineering. So if you're in this in-between place where you're still doing medical billing, what are some things that you can do right now that can still bring you into aeronautical engineering? Are there any additional certifications you could look into? Is there something else that you could be doing in your free time or spare time that you have that can help you to showcase that you are still doing more in aeronautical engineering, even though you've been working in the billing field? There's always this balance where you do a little bit of both. All right, so Robert says, I'm in a thought that if I choose an aviation career after 27 years, it will be a waste of 5 years of being in the medical field. I'm really confused whether I can continue career in the medical field or not. I want to say hello to Charles Owers. Hello, welcome, welcome. And we're talking architecture. We're talking architecture as it relates to careers. That's what we're talking about, Charles. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Robert says, sorry if I diverted your today's topic from conversations to career selections. Maybe it will be very useful for me. Robert, you know I'm here to support you any way that I can, friend. So don't you worry about that. Don't worry about that at all. Okay, so I don't want you to think that you are ever wasting time. And sometimes when we are at a place in our careers where we know we want to do something else, we do have that feel sometimes as if I just wasted 5 years of my life doing this. So don't think of it. There's a lot of skills that you learn in the medical field that could be potentially applied to aeronautical engineering. Now you may be saying, what skills specifically? There's a lot of skills that you will end up learning, especially for your role because you're a process coach, that will support you depending on what you do with aeronautical engineering. You will probably be in a situation where you're managing projects, you're managing people, you are building processes in place because aeronautical engineering is heavily dependent on that. You may be in a situation where you're dealing with clients from different areas of the world and communicating with them and making sure you're on the same page. So any experiences that you have, Robert, I would not necessarily consider them to be wasted. Think of it as, what are some skills that I could potentially translate from the medical field into the aeronautical engineering field? Now, I will say I've worked with a lot of my clients that are women in leadership that have those same type of challenges where they're trying to transition into different careers. I had one person going from a career in healthcare, and she was not sure what career she wanted to go into, and she actually transitioned into the legal field. She was at that same type of place where you're at, Robert. She had been in the insurance industry, believe it or not, in healthcare for decades. And she just was at the point where she knew she wanted to do more, and she was getting a bit tired of what she was doing. And the biggest challenge she had was she didn't know exactly what to do. And that's what working with an executive coach like myself will help you to learn, is to figure out what it is, what's the next step, what's the next plan. Now, once she figured it out, she applied for opportunities and she ended up in a law office. And the last time I spoke with her, she was ecstatic. She was so happy that she transitioned into that career. But I will say one of her big concerns that she had, Robert, was something that you mentioned too, is, I've been in this role for so long, I feel like I'm wasting my time. How can I translate these skills to aeronautical engineering? That is one of the things I would recommend for you to do, is to take some time and think about the amazing skills that you have developed. And depending on what you come up with specifically is something that you can consider. Well, how can I have my role as a process coach transition into aeronautical engineering? What aspects of it specifically? Not necessarily the role, because they're two totally different roles, two totally different industries, but what aspects or characteristics can you transition into aeronautical engineering? That's where I would start first. Angel Mo, hello. Robert says, thank you so much for the detailed explanation, ma'am. I got some ideas to make a big decision. Your sessions are very useful to me. Of course, Robert, high five, Robert. I'm always here to help you, friend, any way that I can. And I would start there. And the reason I say that, and I share with you that this will help you, is because I had to do the same thing when I was transitioning from my role as being a clinical dentist to transitioning into an executive coach and transitioning into public speaking. I did those things at the same time. Now, I probably did a little too much, but I've done that since I've been doing that for my whole entire life. I always do a little extra. But think of those translatable skills and try to see what you can do as it relates to aeronautical engineering now in your spare time. And I think you and I have talked about this. I believe that's probably what you were alluding to one time we spoke before, in terms of, do you give 100% at your job, or do you give 80%? And why you do 20% aeronautical engineering? It's just something to think about. And it's just really something to think about. And when you know you have a bigger mission and you know you have something that you really enjoy, such as aeronautical engineering, it may be an opportunity for you to start working on it. Make this the year where you start to make that transition. Don't go into 2027 staying in the same place. Start working on it now. We're early in the year. You will be so surprised as to what could potentially happen when you just take a few moments to start just going into it a little bit. Start looking into aeronautical engineering. See if there's any type of certification you might want to take. It will be very helpful to you. Chris to the rescue. Hello, Chris. Welcome. Robert says, thank you, ma'am. I am leaving the session now. Having some work to do. See you soon. All right, Robert. Robert says, bye. Take care. Bye, Robert. Hope you have a great day. Good to see you. Chris to the rescue says, Michael LaHorsey just inherited Apple and is not their new CEO. That could be true, may not be true. That's something I would have to take a look at. I've been a bit focused on a couple other things, but if you have any additional insights there, Chris, let us know. So we talked about a couple strategies to help you have difficult conversation. And for those of you who are watching, if you have any difficult conversations coming up, or if there's something that you are struggling with as it relates to having difficult conversations, then put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it for the next probably 2 minutes or so. I'm here to help you any way that I can. But for those of you who are just joined, welcome, welcome. We have talked about a couple strategies to help you be able to have difficult conversations. Now, I do want to say this as a preface. If you're a woman in leadership and you are struggling with having difficult conversations, you're not sure what to say and how to say it, then you should absolutely reach out to me for a strategy session in the description below. If not, the first strategy I want to share with you is that you absolutely want to plan for your intended and unintended consequences that can happen from this conversation. That's non-negotiable. This is how exceptional leaders think. They don't think about what's in front of them. They think about what's in front of them, what's behind them, what's to the side of them. They think about the big picture. Second is to make it like a conversation. Now, there's many, many, many ways to have a difficult conversation, but I'm only sharing 2 insights here. If you want to learn more, you absolutely want to subscribe to the channel, but then also take some time to look at some of the videos on my live tab. We talk about this specifically. There's many videos on difficult conversations, eye contact, and etc. This is something that will help you. So if you're at a point where you're trying to elevate how you're communicating, then take some time to take a look at my live tab. I guarantee you, and I mean that in all sincerity, I guarantee you, you'll find some value out of the videos in the live tab, because I'm sharing with you skills that a lot of people are not talking about whatsoever on YouTube or in general, especially as it relates to helping you communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. Second strategy was to make sure that you are having a conversation. When you're having a difficult conversation, do not take your frustration that you have about someone not doing something correctly out on them. Be very, very calm in how you communicate and monitor your tone of voice and really have a conversation. I talk about this a lot on my channel, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail in this video. But when you're having a difficult conversation, make sure you are having a conversation. We have Alexander Pickering, B3B. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, Alexander. Hope you're doing well today. So we've talked about a couple of aspects. I do want to mention tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be going live with Sadie Lavish on Instagram, and we're going to be talking about how you can start gaining more control over your schedule. Start getting to the point where you're setting more boundaries and be in a place where you can have a bit more control of your time. Many of us are women in leadership, or you may be a man in leadership, just depending on where you are. And we find ourselves in situations where it's just very, very hard to control our time and to have our dream schedules because we're so tied down to a specific job. So Sadie's going to talk a bit more about how we can help you to get past this. And I'm going to talk a bit more about how to establish those boundaries so you can make those changes and start living the life you want to have. So I appreciate you all being here, but that's tomorrow, February the 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Feel free to join us on Instagram. It will be live. It'll be a lot of fun. Alexander Pickering, B3B says, I'm just wondering if I could be a mod. You know what, Alexander, I will say this, and I'm going to take a screenshot of your name, because as the channel starts to grow, there's a certain period or certain point in my YouTube journey where I'm probably going to get a moderator, because I do a lot of lives. And Alexander, I know you've been on my lives before because I remember seeing your name, but there comes a point in my journey where I'm probably going to have a moderator. So I will definitely keep that in mind. Just tell me where you're based out of, I would say. And when I get to the point where I have a moderator, I'll definitely keep you updated on that, because I do anticipate the channel to grow more. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers here. And I know as we grow, so do the trolls. Just like this person that made a comment on the live right now, that's just completely inappropriate. I'm not a dude, I'm a woman. Like, just silly stuff like that, Alexander. You know, people like that, always good to have a moderator. But right now I'm okay because I don't have as many. But when things grow, absolutely, Alexander, definitely just kind of keep me posted. You're always welcome to put something in the comments too. But I will absolutely keep you in a place where I have that in the back of my mind. All right, we have J.B. Wounds. We whisper, hi, nice to meet you. Well, hello, Jay. Hope you're doing well today, and hope you got some information or some insights here. Appreciate the heart emojis, friends. And J.B. Wounds, we whisper, says sorry for the last emoji. Oh, that's okay, Jay. It's no problem at all. No problem at all. There's on the lives, there's so many things that come through. So an emoji like that is not, I mean, it's not bothering me at all. So I appreciate you stopping by. Let me know if y'all have any questions, specifically as it relates to difficult conversations. And Alexander Pickering says, you don't have to read the whole name right. Yes, I do, but I do want to just let me know. So for instance, there's a lot of people on my channel that I know by name. They just tell me what their name is. So if you want me just to say Alexander, that's fine. But I do want to make sure that the people that are watching the live video are here present, but there's people that watch the replays. And the people that watch the replays, Alexander, they are not able to see the chat like you and I see it right now. So they don't know who's live. They have no idea. So if I don't say necessarily the full name, then they won't know who was actually here. And sometimes on the lives, just depending on what the situation is, they may want people to know that they were here. So I try to say at least the full name unless you let me know otherwise, and I'll abbreviate it and change it. All right, JB Wounds, we whisper, says, my bad. No problem at all. And Alexander says, just call me Alex. Sure, absolutely. We will do that, Alex. Well, definitely keep me updated on things. If you have questions, if you're having a difficult conversation coming up, or if you're at a place where you need to elevate how you communicate as a woman in leadership, as a man in leadership, then let me know. Let me know what topics you want to learn more about. I'm here to support you any way that I can on your journey. I want you all to be successful, and I'm here to support you any way that I can. I will share with you that I am working on a free ebook that you all will be able to download. I do not have it together yet, but I'm actually going to do a poll. I've done it on LinkedIn. I'm going to do a poll on Instagram, and I want you all to let me know what type of information do you want to learn from as it relates to this ebook. I have a couple topics on there. The topic that stands out the most that I've received the most votes on so far is high stakes conversations. So just what we talk about on our YouTube channel all the time, those very challenging situations, how to communicate in those situations. Therefore, I do want you all to vote because I am going to be developing a free, very comprehensive ebook for you all to support you on your journey. So let me know what topics you want to learn a lot more about as you're moving forward. Alex says, I love listening to books. Absolutely. There's two books I have. There's one is a free ebook that I'm working on right now, but then later this year, I'm actually going to be publishing a book. And I will definitely keep you in mind as it relates to that. And I'll make sure I send that information over to you whenever I release my formal book. That's something that I'll have on Amazon, etc. So there's definitely books out there that I will be able to support you with. Well, I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have an absolutely amazing evening. Let me know what questions you have. Remember, come to me with the hard things, the hard situations that you're dealing with as a professional, as a leader. That is my expertise, the hard conversations, the very challenging, complex situations. Feel free to ask me anything. I will give you some insight in terms of how to navigate and handle those situations. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, feel free to subscribe if you found any value here. And take some time to look at my live tab. There's a lot of great resources there that will help you on your journey. So I will see you all in the next video, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye for now.